Good evening, Seekers. Welcome back to the Sleep Scholar Archive. Tonight, we continue Book 2, The Book of the Cosmos. The first stars have burned. Their light has opened the dark. Their deaths have scattered new elements into space. And now, from the ashes of ancient fires, the universe begins to make something new. Not only light, not only stars, but places, worlds. In the last chapter, we watched the first stars ignite and die. They gave the young universe carbon, oxygen, silicon, iron, and dust. Small traces at first. Almost nothing compared with the vastness of space. But almost nothing can become everything when gravity is given time. Before the first stars, the universe could make light. After them, it could begin to make worlds. A world is different from a star. A star is a fire in the dark. A world is a surface, a weight, a place where dust can settle, stone can cool, ice can hide, and shadows can move. Much later, worlds will become the stages of memory. Skies will be watched, seasons will be counted, stars will become signs. But we are not there yet. For now, there is only young starlight, ancient debris, and gravity moving quietly through the dark. In the young galaxies, new clouds begin to collapse. These clouds are not untouched like the first clouds were. They carry memory now. They carry the remains of earlier stars. They carry dust. And dust is a quiet beginning. A grain of dust seems too small to matter. It drifts silently through the cold space between stars, almost weightless, almost invisible. But dust can gather. Dust can cling to dust. Tiny grains can become larger grains. Larger grains can become pebbles. Pebbles can become stones. Stones can become the first rough bodies of a young system. And from these small beginnings, worlds can grow. Around newborn stars, disks of gas and dust begin to spin. Picture a young star at the center of a wide, glowing wheel. Around it, material circles in rings and streams. Gas, ice, metal, stone, dust lit by the star's new fire. The disk is not peaceful. It is a storm arranged into a circle. Particles collide, fragments break, pieces join, gravity pulls, heat rises. The young star burns at the center, and around it, the leftovers of creation begin to organize themselves into future worlds. This is how a star becomes more than a star. It becomes the center of a system, a family of bodies held in orbit. The universe is no longer only making lights in the dark, it is making rooms around the lights. But the birth of a planet is not gentle. It is dust becoming danger. It is stone striking stone. It is heat, pressure, orbit, and impact. Small bodies crash together and merge. Larger bodies sweep up smaller ones. Some are shattered, some are swallowed, some are thrown into darkness, some survive. Nothing becomes stable without first passing through chaos. And yet, from that chaos, shape begins to appear. A rocky world gathers near the warmth of its star. Farther out, ice survives. Gas giants grow large in colder regions. Moons form from debris. Comets wait in distant dark. Asteroids remain as fragments of worlds that never fully became worlds. The system begins to have architecture. Inner fire, outer ice, rings of debris, paths of orbit. Worlds moving through darkness in silent patterns. Long before any mind could study the sky was already arranging itself into order. This is where mystery begins to enter the story, though no one is there yet to feel it. Because a world is not only matter. A world is a future stage. Before there could be ancient watchers, there had to be a horizon. Before there could be calendars, there had to be repeating lights. Before there could be temples aligned to stars, there had to be stone beneath a sky. The universe does not know this. It is not planning ruins, myths, or civilizations. It is only following gravity. It is only gathering dust. It is only letting matter find its shape. But hidden inside this process is everything that will come later. Every city begins with stone. Every temple begins with a world. Every myth begins beneath a sky. And tonight, we follow the universe as it begins to make those skies possible. Section 2. Around each newborn star, the disk began its slow work. From far away, it might have looked delicate. A thin wheel of gas and dust, a golden ring turning in the dark. But inside that ring, nothing was still. Dust moved through gas. Grains brushed against grains. Tiny pieces struck, clung, broke apart, and tried again. There was no perfect design, only collision, failure, return, and time. A speck of dust met another speck of dust. Together they became a larger grain, then a cluster, then a pebble, then a stone. Most beginnings did not survive. Some shattered. Some fell inward toward the young star. Some were pushed outward into colder darkness, but some remained. And the ones that remained kept gathering. This is called accretion. Matter finding matter. Small things becoming larger things. Dust becoming stone. Stone becoming world. Near the young star, the heat was too strong for ice to last. There, the building materials were rock and metal, silicates, iron, nickel, harder things, heavier things, the ingredients of future stone. Farther away, where the dark was colder, ice could remain. Water ice, methane ice, ammonia ice. Frozen material gathered with rock and dust, helping bodies grow larger in the outer reaches of the system. Slowly, the disk began to separate itself. Heat near the center. Ice in the distance. Rocky worlds closer in. Giant worlds farther out. Not always neatly, not always the same way. Every young system had its own accidents, its own violence, its own strange history. But the pattern had begun. A star burned at the center. Around it, matter searched for shape. As larger bodies grew, their gravity grew too. A stone became large enough to pull smaller stones toward it. A rough body became large enough to clear a path through the disk. It swept up debris. It collided with rivals. It gathered fragments into itself. The quiet dust had become dangerous. The disk had become a battlefield of beginnings. Worlds were not born smooth. They were beaten into shape. They were scarred before they were stable. Their surfaces glowed with heat. Their interiors churned. Their skies, if they had skies, were not gentle. They were steam, vapor, ash, and fire. A young rocky planet may have been an ocean of magma beneath a burning atmosphere. A world, but not yet a home. A place, but not yet a refuge. Still, this mattered, because the universe had crossed another threshold. It was no longer only making stars, it was making surfaces. And a surface changes the story. A surface can cool, a surface can crack. A surface can hold the mark of impact. A surface can receive light and cast shadow. Later, much later, a surface can hold water. Later still, it can hold footprints. But for now, the first worlds were young and violent. They spun beneath newborn stars, while fragments continued to fall. Some fragments became moons. Some became rings. Some remained as wandering stones. Some were thrown into long cold paths, becoming comets that carried ancient ice far from the star. The young system was full of messengers. Rock from the inner heat, ice from the outer dark, metal sinking into cores. Dust left behind in silent rings. Each piece carried a clue about where it formed. Each orbit kept a record of motion. Each collision wrote a line in the hidden history of the system. No one was there to read it, but the record was being made. That is the strange thing about worlds. They remember before anyone remembers them. They hold scars before anyone gives those scars a name. A crater is a memory. A canyon is a memory. A layer of stone is a memory. A frozen moon is a memory. Long before temples, long before maps, long before the first carved symbol, matter was already learning how to keep history. Not with language, not with thought, but with shape, with rock, with ice, with orbit. The first worlds were not only places, they were silent archives. They held the violence of their birth in their bodies. They held the chemistry of older stars in their stone. They held the pattern of their system in their paths. And as they circled their young stars, the cosmos moved one step closer to a stranger future. A future with skies. A future with horizons. A future where memory would one day wake up, look upward, and wonder why the lights returned every night. Section 3. As young systems grew, they began to sort themselves into different kinds of worlds. Not every world was made from the same ingredients. Not every world formed in the same region. Near the star, where heat ruled, ice could not easily survive. The material there was harder. Rock, metal, dust baked by light. These inner worlds were smaller and denser. They gathered from stone and iron, from fragments that had survived the violence of the disk. They were worlds of impact and heat. Young rocky planets glowed from within. Their surfaces melted and cooled again. Their crusts cracked, their interiors separated, with heavier metals sinking inward and lighter stone rising above. The universe was learning how to make ground. Farther from the star, beyond the warmer inner regions, the cold allowed other materials to remain. Ice could gather there. Gas could linger there. Bodies could grow larger, faster. Some young worlds became giants, wrapped in enormous atmospheres of hydrogen and helium. They were not solid in the way a stone world is solid. They were deep, layered, storm-filled spheres, with pressures so great that matter behaved in strange ways. Around them, moons began to form. Some moons were rocky, some were icy, some were born from disks of material circling the giant worlds themselves. A system was becoming a system within a system. A star with planets, planets with moons, moons with scars, rings of debris, families of motion. The universe was no longer only making single objects, it was making relationships, orbits, cycles, returns. A moon circles a planet circles a star. A comet falls inward from the cold and then disappears again into distance. These patterns existed long before anyone could measure them. Long before any priest, farmer, traveler, or king watched the sky and tried to understand what repeated there. The heavens were already practicing rhythm before there were eyes beneath them. This matters because worlds do not become mysterious only when life appears. They are mysterious from the beginning. A planet is a hidden history. A moon is a kept secret. A comet is an old traveler from the edge of a system. An asteroid is a leftover sentence from a chapter that never became a planet. Every object carries the story of what happened to it, where it formed, what it struck, what it lost, what it kept. In the early systems, many bodies did not survive. Some fell into the star. Some were thrown into deep space. Some collided and became larger worlds. Some shattered and became fields of debris. Some impacts were so large that they changed the destiny of a planet. A collision could tilt a world, strip an atmosphere, melt a surface, tear material into orbit, where it might gather again as a moon. The birth of worlds was not gentle creation. It was selection by violence. And still, order slowly emerged. A stable orbit is a kind of peace. A cooled surface is a kind of memory. A moon returning to the same place in the sky is the beginning of a pattern. The universe was building clocks before anyone knew time could be counted. It was building calendars before anyone carved marks into stone. It was building horizons before anyone stood beneath one. In the inner warmth, rocky planets hardened. In the outer dark, icy bodies waited. Between them, giant planets shaped the motion of smaller worlds with their gravity. They scattered comets, they captured moons, they cleared paths, they protected and disturbed. A young system became a place of balance, but not perfect balance. A living tension. Enough chaos to change, enough order to endure. This is the kind of place where a future could begin. Not life yet, not thought, not myth. Only the stage, only the floor beneath a future sky. There would need to be more. The right distance from a star, the right chemistry, the right kind of world. Maybe water, maybe a moon, maybe time, a great deal of time. Most worlds would remain silent forever, frozen, burned, crushed, lost in darkness. But some worlds, somewhere, would hold on. They would cool. They would gather atmospheres. They would keep oceans. They would carry seasons. And one day, on at least one small world, the sky would not remain empty of meaning. It would become a map, a warning, a calendar, a story. But for now, in this early age, there are no stories yet. Only matter circling light. Only stone cooling in darkness. Only moons rising over worlds that have no names. The cosmos is making places. And in those places, the future waits without knowing it is waiting. Section 4. As the young systems took shape, the first worlds were still unfinished. They were not calm blue planets. They were not quiet moons hanging over silver landscapes. They were not places of oceans, forests, deserts, or ruins. They were violent bodies of heat and stone. New planets grew by collision. Again and again, smaller pieces struck larger ones. Dust became gravel. Gravel became rock. Rock became mountain-sized bodies moving through the dark. And those bodies met each other with terrible force. A young world was not born clean. It was hammered into shape. Each impact added material. Each collision released heat. Each broken fragment became part of something larger, or was scattered away into space. The early planetary system was a forge. Not a forge with hands, not a forge with intention, but a forge made of gravity, speed, and time. Worlds were beaten together in darkness. Their surfaces melted, their interiors separated. Heavy metals sank inward. Lighter rock rose outward. Slowly, some planets began to form layers. A core, a mantle, a crust, a hidden center of iron and fire, a cooling skin of stone. Even then, they were not safe. The young system was still crowded. Bodies crossed each other's paths. Impacts remained common. A world could grow for ages, only to be shattered. A moon could be born from debris. A planet could be scarred so deeply that the mark would remain for billions of years. This is part of the story of worlds. They are not peaceful because they are simple. They are peaceful only after surviving chaos. And some worlds did survive. Near their stars, rocky planets took shape from metal and stone. Farther out, where the cold was deeper, ice could remain. Beyond the warmer inner regions, gas and ice gathered into larger bodies. Giant planets formed with thick atmospheres and hidden depths. Moons collected around them like smaller echoes. Comets waited in the outer dark, holding ancient ice. Asteroids remained as fragments, unfinished thoughts of planet-making. The system became a kind of memory. Every orbit told a story. Every crater remembered an impact. Every moon carried a trace of some older collision. Every ring of debris was a sentence left unfinished. No one was there to read it, but the writing had begun. This is where the cosmos becomes strangely close to myth. Not because the science is false, because the truth is older and stranger than myth ever needed to be. Fire becomes stone, stone becomes world, world becomes sky. Sky becomes the first great ceiling under which something might one day look up. Before any ancient people raised a temple, worlds had to cool. Before any priest watched Venus rise, there had to be an evening. Before any civilization carved symbols into rock, there had to be rock. Before any story placed gods among the stars, there had to be stars above a stable ground. The universe was still far from that moment. But the path was narrowing toward it. Matter was no longer only drifting, it was becoming places. Some worlds would remain barren, some would freeze, some would burn, some would lose their atmospheres. Some would wander in darkness without a star. Some would circle their suns for billions of years without ever knowing life. But a few would become something rarer. They would keep their heat. They would hold their atmospheres. They would gather water. They would become stages for weather, erosion, tides, and time. On such worlds, stone could become landscape. Ice could become ocean. Atmosphere could become sky. And sky could become mystery. Because once a world has a sky, it has a rhythm. Day and night, moonrise and moonset, seasons, eclipses, wandering planets, stars returning to the same places, patterns above the dark. Long before there were eyes, the patterns were already there. Long before there were calendars, the heavens already kept time. Long before there were myths, the night was already full of signs waiting to be mistaken for messages. This is not yet the story of civilization. Not yet. This is only the preparation. The universe is making the stage before the actors arrive. It is making stone before temples. It is making horizons before watchers. It is making skies before symbols. And in the quiet of the observatory, that preparation feels almost like a secret. Worlds are forming in the dark. Most will never be known. Most will never be named. But somewhere, across the long future, one world will cool beneath one ordinary star. And on that world, much later, creatures made from ancient dust will look upward and begin to wonder. Section 5. As the first worlds cooled, they began to become more than molten stone. They began to change. A young planet is not a finished thing. It is restless. Its surface cracks. Its interior moves. Its atmosphere forms, escapes, returns, and changes again. Volcanoes open like wounds. Gases rise from the deep. Impacts deliver ice and metal. Comets pass through the dark, carrying frozen memory from the outer system. Little by little, some worlds begin to gather air. Not always gentle air, not always breathable air, not anything like the skies we know. But an atmosphere is still a beginning. It is a world learning to hold something around itself. A thin veil, a moving skin, a boundary between stone and space. With an atmosphere, a world can have weather. With weather, a world can have change. Heat can move, clouds can form, storms can travel, light can scatter, shadows can soften. The surface is no longer simply exposed to the dark. It has a sky. And a sky changes everything. A sky gives the stars distance. It gives the sun a rising and a setting. It gives night a ceiling. It gives a world the first shape of mystery. Some planets lose their atmospheres. Some are stripped bare by radiation. Some are too small to hold what they gather. Some are too close to their stars and burn. Some are too far away and freeze. The universe makes countless worlds that never become welcoming, but it only needs some to become strange, some to become stable, some to hold heat long enough, some to hold water, some to keep turning beneath a patient star. Water is one of the great turning points. It can arrive in ice, it can rise from within. It can fall, freeze, melt, and flow. On a cooling world, water can become more than a substance. It can become a sculptor. It carves, it carries, it dissolves. It remembers the pull of gravity in every river and every tide. A dry world may be beautiful. A molten world may be powerful. A frozen world may be silent and ancient. But a world with water begins to feel like a place where stories could one day happen. Not human stories yet, not living stories yet, only the possibility of motion that repeats. Rain, ice, mist, ocean, tide, return. A world with cycles is different from a world without them. Cycles make rhythm, and rhythm is the beginning of time being felt. Day and night, heat and cold, storm and calm, season and season, moon and tide. Long before any living thing measured them, these rhythms existed. Long before hands carved marks into bone or stone, the heavens were already keeping count. A moon could circle a world in silence for millions of years. A planet could turn beneath its star without witness. A shadow could cross a surface again and again. An eclipse could happen in perfect darkness, with no one there to fear it or worship it. The patterns were already there, waiting. This is the strange patience of the universe. It prepares things long before they are used. It makes stone long before walls. It makes sky long before prayer. It makes cycles long before calendars. It makes stars long before anyone gives them names. And so, across young systems, worlds continued to settle. Some became rocky and scarred. Some became giants wrapped in storm. Some gathered moons. Some kept rings of debris. Some held oceans beneath ice. Some became dead before they ever had the chance to change. But each one was part of the same larger transformation. The universe was no longer only a place of light. It was becoming a place of surfaces, a place of horizons, a place where there could be above and below, near and far, sunrise and nightfall. The first worlds did not know they were important. They did not know that one day, on one small world, creatures would wake beneath the stars and try to read them. They did not know that stone would become temple, that shadow would become calendar, that the sky would become scripture, that the wandering planets would become gods. They were only worlds, turning, cooling, breaking, healing. But hidden in their silence was the next great mystery. Not the mystery of stars, not the mystery of fire, the mystery of place. Because once the universe has places, it can begin to have histories. A crater can remain, a mountain can rise, a shoreline can move, a sky can return night after night with the same bright patterns. And much later, when minds finally appear beneath those patterns, they will not see only lights. They will see messages, they will see omens, they will see maps, they will see doors. But for now, the worlds are still young, the stones are still hot, the skies are still forming, and the long future waits quietly beneath the stars. Section 6. As worlds formed, they did not form alone. A planet is never only itself. It belongs to a system. A star pulls it, moons circle it, comets visit from the outer dark, asteroids cross its path, dust drifts through its orbit like the memory of unfinished creation. Everything moves in relation to everything else. A world is a place, but it is also a participant. Turns, travels, it leans, it receives light, it casts shadow. It passes through seasons before there is anyone to name them. Around young stars, the first system slowly became ordered. Not perfectly, not peacefully, but ordered enough. Some bodies settled into steady paths. Some were thrown away. Some collided and vanished. Some became moons. Some became rings. Some remained as broken fragments, circling for ages in silence. Gravity was no longer only gathering matter. It was arranging motion, and motion became rhythm. A planet spins, and there is day and night. A planet orbits, and there is a year. A moon circles, and there are phases. A tilted world moves around its star, and seasons begin. These rhythms can exist without life. They can continue for millions of years with no witness. A moon can wax and fade above an empty plain. A sun can rise over stone that no foot will ever touch. An eclipse can darken a world where no eye will look up in fear. The universe does not wait for witnesses before it becomes beautiful. It makes patterns first. Understanding comes later. This is one of the bridges between the cosmos and the ancient world that will come much later. The sky becomes meaningful because it repeats. The same lights return. The same wandering planets move against the background of stars. The same moon changes shape and comes back again. The same sun rises, sets, disappears, and returns. Long before civilization, the heavens were already a clock. Long before writing, the sky was already a record. Long before temples, the horizon was already measuring light. But in this chapter of time, there are no watchers yet. Only the machinery that will one day make watching possible. Worlds continue to cool. Crusts harden. Mountains rise. Basins form. Moons pull on oceans where oceans exist. Tides begin their patient work. Impacts leave scars. Volcanoes breathe gases into young skies. Comets deliver ice from distant places. Every world becomes a different experiment. Some are too hot. Some are too cold. Some are crushed beneath thick atmospheres. Some are stripped bare. Some are giants of gas with no solid surface. Some are small stones wandering in darkness. Some hide oceans beneath shells of ice. Some glow red with inner heat. The universe is not careful with worlds. It makes more than it needs. It makes failures, fragments, wanderers, deserts, frozen moons, storm-covered giants, dead stones. But among the countless bodies, some worlds become stable enough to keep changing. That stability matters. A world that changes too violently cannot hold a long memory. A world that never changes may remain locked in silence. But a world balanced between order and motion can become something stranger. It can have weather, it can have erosion, it can have cycles, it can have a surface that records time. Stone can hold marks, ice can preserve traces, water can carve paths, atmosphere can soften light, a sky can return night after night, carrying the same ancient patterns. This is how place becomes memory. Not memory like a mind, not thought, not story, but physical memory. A crater, a canyon, a layer of rock, a shoreline, a frozen plain, a mountain lifted from pressure below. The first worlds began to hold the evidence of what had happened to them. They became archives before there were archivists. They became records before there were readers. And somewhere in this thought, the future begins to feel near. Because one day, much later, on one world, beings will look at stone and ask what it remembers. They will look at the sky and ask what it means. They will mark the return of the sun. They will follow the moon. They will build toward the stars. But for now, the worlds turn silently. The systems settle. the young galaxies continue to shine, and the universe, without knowing it, is preparing the first great rooms where mystery can someday live. Section 7. Among the forming worlds, some began to settle into dangerous balance. Not safe, not gentle, not ready for life, but balanced enough to continue changing. A world too close to its star could burn beneath endless heat. A world too far away could freeze in silence. A world too small could lose its air to space. A world too large could become a giant without a surface. A world without protection could be stripped by radiation. A world without motion could become locked, barren, and still. The universe was making countless attempts. Most would never become places of life. Most would remain empty. Beautiful, perhaps. Strange, perhaps. But empty. And still, each one mattered, because every world was part of the universe, learning what a world could be. Some were deserts of stone. Some were oceans of gas. Some were frozen moons. Some were volcanic spheres, glowing red in the dark. Some were covered in storms larger than continents. Some carried rings. Some carried scars. Some were broken before they were finished. The cosmos was no longer simple. It had become a maker of variety. And variety is important, because the future does not arrive everywhere. It arrives where conditions allow it. A world needs more than stone. It needs time. It needs stability. It needs a star that does not destroy it too quickly. It needs distance enough for warmth, but not ruin. It needs a surface that can cool. It needs ingredients that can gather. It needs cycles that can repeat. It needs change without total destruction. This is a rare kind of balance. Too much chaos, and nothing can last. Too much stillness, and nothing can begin. Between those two extremes, a world can become a cradle. Not immediately, not easily, but eventually. The first planets were not cradles yet. They were beginnings. They were rough drafts written in fire, ice, stone, and impact. But hidden inside the idea of a planet was something new. A place where history could gather. Stars have histories, but they burn too fiercely to keep surfaces. Gas clouds have histories, but they drift and dissolve. A world can hold marks. A world can keep scars. A world can cool into layers. A world can be struck, carved, buried, flooded, frozen, and changed. It can become a record. And later, much later, records will matter. A canyon will tell a story. A fossil will hold a shape. A ruin will remember hands. A temple stone will remember the sky it was placed beneath. But before any of that, the universe needed worlds capable of keeping evidence. It needed places where time could leave marks. This is the hidden mystery of planet making. It is not only matter becoming round, it is matter becoming memory. Stone does not think. Water does not wonder. Ice does not understand what it preserves. But they can hold traces. They can keep the past in physical form. And one day, beings made from that same ancient matter will learn to read those traces. They will read rock. They will read bone. They will read stars. They will read alignments of stone against sunrise. They will read the heavens as if the universe had written to them. But here, in the early age of worlds, there are no readers, only preparation. Planets turn in silence. Moons pull on seas that may or may not exist. Comets travel long paths through the cold. Asteroids carry fragments of unfinished worlds. Young suns shine over surfaces with no names, no myths, no maps, no gods, no cities, only matter, arranging itself into the possibility of place. And still, something has changed. The universe is no longer only a darkness filled with lights. It is becoming a darkness filled with worlds beneath those lights. Worlds that can face their stars. Worlds that can have mornings. Worlds that can have nights. Worlds where shadows can move across stone. Worlds where one day the sky might become more than sky. For now, they are silent. But silence is not emptiness. Sometimes silence is only the long pause before memory begins. Section 8. Some worlds were only stone. Some were only ice. Some were wrapped in storms. Some were crushed beneath their own weight. But a few worlds became more complicated. They gathered more than rock. They gathered chemistry. This was the next quiet turning point. The first stars had made the heavier elements. Later stars had scattered more of them. Young systems had gathered those elements into dust, stone, ice, and metal. And now, on certain worlds, those ingredients could begin to meet. Carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, iron, sulfur, phosphorus. Small pieces of a much older story, carried across time by stars, explosions, clouds, disks, and impacts. On a young world, these ingredients did not immediately become life. They were only matter, only possibility. But possibility had become richer than before. A planet with stone alone is one kind of place. A planet with stone, water, heat, atmosphere, and chemistry is something else. It is a world with movement. A world where substances can mix. A world where heat can rise from below and light can fall from above. A world where oceans can pull minerals from rock. A world where lightning can cross a sky. A world where tides can drag water over shorelines again and again. A world where time can work slowly on matter. No one is there yet. No creature, no witness, no voice, but the world is no longer still in the same way. It is becoming active. Not alive, not yet, but active. This is important because life, if it comes, does not arrive from nothing. It needs a stage. It needs elements. It needs energy. It needs cycles. It needs places where chemistry can repeat, fail, change, and try again. The universe had spent billions of years preparing these things without knowing it. First came space, then light, then atoms, then stars, then heavier elements, then dust, then worlds, then oceans, then skies. Each step opened a new possibility. Each possibility waited for the next. And somewhere in the long future, on at least one world, chemistry would become something stranger. Matter would begin to copy itself. Boundaries would form. Energy would be used. The first simple life would appear. But we are not there yet. For now, we remain in the age of preparation. The worlds are still young. Their surfaces are still unstable. Their skies are still changing. Their oceans, where they exist, are still dark and ancient. But they are becoming the kinds of places where time can gather. And that is what makes them mysterious. A star shines. A world remembers. It remembers in craters, in layers, in minerals, in frozen seas, in canyons, in the chemistry of its air, in the slow turning of its surface beneath the light of its star. Long before any civilization keeps records, worlds keep records of their own. Stone remembers pressure. Ice remembers cold. Water remembers gravity. Atmosphere remembers light. A planet becomes an archive before anyone knows how to read. And much later, on one small world, living beings will begin to read it. They will read the seasons. They will read the moon. They will read the return of stars. They will read flood, drought, eclipse, comet, and sunrise. They will look at the sky and feel that it is speaking. But in this early chapter, the sky is silent. The worlds do not know they will one day become meaningful. They do not know that mountains may become sacred, that rivers may become gods, that stones may become circles, altars, walls, and temples. They do not know that the heavens above them will one day be mapped with stories. They only turn, they cool, they break, they gather, they wait. And in that waiting, the universe becomes more than a place of fire. It becomes a place where mystery can take root. Not yet in minds, not yet in language, not yet in myth, but in matter itself, in the slow preparation of worlds, in the quiet patience of stone beneath a sky, in the first conditions that make memory possible. The cosmos is still far from civilization, but the road toward it has begun to exist. Section 9. Among the countless worlds forming in young systems, most would remain silent forever. They would circle their stars without oceans. They would freeze in the outer dark. They would burn too close to fire. They would drift without air. They would break apart under impacts, or wander between stars with no sun at all. The universe makes more worlds than it can use. It scatters them through galaxies like unfinished thoughts. Some are beautiful, some are strange, some are violent, some are almost gentle, but only a few become stable enough for the long work of change. Stability is not stillness. A living world, or a world that may one day become living, is not dead quiet. It moves, it turns, it heats and cools, it cracks and heals. It gathers water, loses water, hides water, and brings it back again. It is shaped by impact from above and pressure from below. It receives light from its star. It carries darkness on its far side. It passes through cycles before anything is there to count them. This is what the cosmos was beginning to make. Not life yet, not civilization, not temples, myths, or memory. Only the kind of place where those things could one day become possible. A world needs time. That may be the rarest ingredient of all. Not only stone, not only water, not only air, but time enough for change to repeat. Time enough for surfaces to cool. Time enough for oceans to gather. Time enough for chemistry to wander through its possibilities. Time enough for the sky to return night after night with the same patient stars. A world without time is only a moment. A world with time can become a story. Across the galaxies, young planets turned beneath young suns. Some were too unstable to keep their form. Some were too violent to keep their skies. Some were too cold to loosen their ice. Some were too hot to keep their seas. But somewhere, the universe would eventually make worlds balanced between extremes. Close enough to warmth, far enough from ruin, restless enough to change, stable enough to remember. Those worlds would not look magical at first. They would look like stone, cloud, ocean, ice, fire, dust. But hidden inside them was a future no star could hold by itself. A star can shine, but a world can be stood upon. A star can give light, but a world can give horizon. And once there is a horizon, there can one day be east and west, morning and evening, rising and setting, the return of the moon, the pattern of seasons, the wandering of planets, the slow turning of the heavens above a fixed place. Long before anyone knew what a calendar was, the ingredients of calendars were being made. Long before anyone built an altar, the stone was being formed. Long before anyone watched the solstice, worlds were learning how to tilt and turn. Long before anyone turned stars into gods, stars were shining over surfaces where gods could someday be imagined. The universe was not only making planets, it was making the conditions for meaning. Not meaning yet, not language, not belief, only the physical foundations. A sky overhead, a ground below, a repeating light, a darkness that returns. A world stable enough for memory to begin. This is why the birth of worlds belongs in the story of mystery. Because every ancient civilization begins much earlier than civilization. It begins in dust. It begins in the death of stars. It begins in disks of gas around young suns. It begins in impacts, oceans, moons, tides, and stone. By the time a hand carves a symbol into rock, the rock has already traveled through a history almost too large to imagine. By the time a temple is aligned with the sky has already been repeating its patterns for ages, beyond counting. By the time a myth names a star, the star has already burned through silence older than memory. The ancient world does not begin with people. It begins with the cosmos, making a place where people can one day wander. And in that quiet thought, the next doorway begins to appear. The Book of the Cosmos is not finished yet. There is one more turn in this journey. From stars to worlds, from worlds to one small world beneath one ordinary sun. A world of stone, ocean, storm, and sky. A world where matter will eventually wake. A world where the heavens will become more than lights. They will become signs, stories, calendars, gods, questions. But for now, that world is still only a possibility. The dust is still gathering, the stones are still cooling, the skies are still forming. And the universe, patient as ever, is making places where mystery can someday open its eyes. Section 10. And so, Seekers, the universe has taken another quiet step toward becoming familiar. It has made stars, it has made elements, it has made dust, and now it has begun to make worlds. Not peaceful worlds, not finished worlds, not worlds with names, maps, oceans, temples, or stories. Only young places of fire and stone, places hammered together from fragments, places born from collision, places cooling beneath new suns, places where gravity has gathered the ashes of older stars and shaped them into ground. This is the strange beauty of planet making. It begins with destruction. A star dies, its remains scatter, a cloud gathers, a new star forms, dust spins around it, fragments collide, worlds emerge, nothing is wasted. The universe carries its losses forward and uses them again. A planet is not separate from the fires that came before it. Its iron remembers stellar cores. Its carbon remembers ancient furnaces. Its stone remembers dust. Its water, when water comes, remembers cold places far from the newborn sun. Every world is an inheritance, a gathering of older things into a new form. And once worlds exist, the cosmos changes again. A star gives light, but a world gives that light somewhere to fall. A star shines, but a world can have morning. A star burns, but a world can have shadow. A star fills space with radiance, but a world can turn beneath that radiance and make rhythm from it. Day, night, season, tide, return. These are simple things. So simple that much later, living beings will take them for granted. But before there could be anything sacred about sunrise, sunrise itself had to become possible. Before there could be a solstice, there had to be a tilted world moving around a star. Before there could be a moon watched from a temple roof, there had to be a moon. Before there could be a myth about the heavens, there had to be a heaven above a horizon. In this chapter, we have not reached civilization. We have not reached Earth. We have not reached life. But we have reached the stage on which all of those things can one day appear. That is why the birth of worlds feels different from the birth of stars. Stars made the universe bright. Worlds made the universe local. They gave the cosmos surfaces, directions, horizons, places where above and below could begin to mean something, places where time could leave marks. A crater, a canyon, a shoreline, a mountain, a layer of stone, a frozen sea beneath an ancient crust. These are not thoughts. They are not memories in the human sense, but they are records. They are the universe beginning to keep evidence. Long before any hand carved a symbol, stone was already holding history. Long before any priest watched the sky, planets were already turning. Long before any city raised its walls, worlds were already learning how to endure. This is the mystery hidden inside matter. The future is often prepared before anyone knows it is coming. The universe does not announce what it is making. It simply gathers, cools, collides, turns, waits. And from that waiting, new possibilities appear. One day, on one world, matter will become alive. One day, life will become aware. One day, awareness will look upward. It will see the same kinds of lights that made its body possible. It will track them, fear them, worship them, measure them, build beneath them, turn them into gods, calendars, omens, and maps. But that is still ahead. For now, the worlds are silent. Young planets circle young stars. Moons rise over empty stone. Comets move through the cold. Dust glows in the light of suns that have no names. The universe has not yet become ancient history, but it has begun making the places where ancient history can happen. And that is where we will go next. In the final chapter of this book, we will return toward one small world beneath one ordinary star. A world of stone, water, storm, and sky. A world where the ashes of stars will eventually become oceans, mountains, bodies, and minds. A world where creatures will look up into the night and begin to read the heavens as if they were written. But for now, rest here. Among the first worlds, among the fire and stone, among the quiet beginnings of place, the cosmos has learned to shine. Now it has learned to gather. The book remains open. The worlds turn silently beneath their stars. Sleep well, Seekers.